Hello, Professor Rose. My name is Efren De Hoyos, and my author project presentation will be about John Steinbeck and his contributions to American literature. Okay, so let's go over some background information about the author. So, John Ernest Steinbeck Jr. was a famous novelist and short story writer of the early 19th century. He was born on February 27, 1902, in Salinas, California. His literature dealt with social and economic issues. Before achieving success, Steinbeck dropped out of college and worked as a manual laborer, which inspired much of his work. American literature during this time had transitioned into the modernist era, from realism and naturalism styles that were very popular in the late 19th century. Also, America had experienced major events such as World War I and the Great Depression that were major themes in literature at this time. Realism and naturalism were popular styles in American literature from 1870 to 1910. Through realism, authors depicted everyday occurrences and experiences as it would happen in real life. Through naturalism, writers would have an objective study on human behavior through scientific reasoning. Both of these styles fled off from Romanticism, which was heavy on themes such as imagination and used the styles of poetry. John Steinbeck was part of the lost generation of writers, which include Ernest Hemingway, Scott Fitzgerald, and William Faulkner. The Lost Generation were a group of American writers that were influenced by World War I and were popular during this time. Their writing discussed situations that most Americans could relate to. Stein- in total, Steinbeck wrote 31 books, out of which 16 were novels, 6 nonfiction books, and 2 collections of short stories. Some of his famous work include Tortilla Flat, released in 1935, Cannery Row, which was released in 1945, East of Eden, released in 1952, The Red Pony, 1933, Of Mice and Men, in 1937, which is one of the first books I read of him and intrigued me to the author and me creating this presentation about him. And in 1939, he released The Grape of Raph, which is one of his most popular work of all time. In order to understand Steinbeck's importance, we must examine his literature. The first book that we will examine is Of Mice and Men, which was published in 1937. Of Mice and Men is a fictional story that follows two poor migrant workers, George and Lenny. Lenny has a mental disability and remains loyal to George. They have a shared goal to own a piece of land and a shack to live. However, the two always end up in trouble. They are able to find work in the fields of Salinas Valley, but Lenny gets the duo into trouble, leading to an unfortunate ending. The story takes place in the hometown of Steinbeck and takes place during the Great Depression. The story showcases the economic struggles that many Americans face while they search for the American dream. The second story that we'll be examining is The Grape of Raph, one of Steinbeck's most famous work, which was released in 1939. The story follows Tom Joad and his Oklahoma family on their journey to find and make a new life in California during the Great Depression. They were forced out of their farm, like many farmers in Texas and Oklahoma at the time, due to a dust storm, which made it impossible to grow crops. The story shows the reality that many farmers faced while leaving their homes and trying to find new jobs in a new home in California and other states. The Grape of Raph demonstrates the themes of poor treatment of migrants as they arrive to California, and the commitment of those families coming over, and the strong kinship shared between the migrants and the perseverance that they had in order to survive and make a new home in California. The relatableness of the book to many Americans helped it sell over 10,000 copies per week. The following video, courtesy of 20th Century Studios, demonstrates the popularity of the Grapes of Wrath with the American audience at the time.
Sweeping across the country comes one of the great literary achievements of our time. A human, revealing, soul-stirring story that instantly becomes the most discussed novel of modern literature, The Grapes of Wrath.
The Grapes of Raph, please. I'll have to put you on the waiting list. We've never had such a demand for a book. Do you have a copy of Grapes of Raph?
Sorry, we're all sold out.
Yes, The Grapes of Raph. Well, send me as many copies as you can. I can't supply the demand.
Grapes of Raph.
The Grapes of Raph.
The Grapes of Raph.
The Grapes of Raph.
The Grapes of Raph.
Grapes of Raph.
Grapes of Raph. As sales skyrocket, the Grapes of Raph becomes the book of the nation. Everyone, everywhere, joins in the discussion of its vital problems. Due to this unprecedented popularity, producers vie for the motion picture rights.
To support that John Steinbeck was a well-recognized writer, he received many awards for his work, some of which were include awards for Totila Flat and Dubious Battle and Of Mice and Men. In 1962, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature, and in 1963, he became the honorary consultant in American literature to the Library of Congress. In 1964, he even was awarded the United States Medal of Freedom. Steinbeck also received many more less recognized awards that are not listed on the slide. In the picture, you can see Steinbeck receiving the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1962. The legacy to support of John Steinbeck is present to this day. Many of his work has been translated into a film adaptation. Some of them include East of Eden, Grapes of Raph, and Of Mice and Men, which has also been adapted twice. Steinbeck's work has also been used in school classrooms. Of Mice and Men and Grapes of Wrath are popular because of the true depiction of the Great Depression. His work has also influenced many authors, from past such as Thomas Mallory and William Faulkner, to present writers as well. John Steinbeck even has his own museum in Old Town Salinas, known as the National Steinbeck Center, which is made to celebrate his life and his work. As As a conclusion to the presentation, the work of John Steinbeck was popular with Americans in the 1920s due to how relatable it was to many during the economical hardships of the Great Depression. His fictional stories convey and portray Americans through fictional characters. These characters try, through a sometimes satire or melancholy tone, their hardest to make a living and to obtain the American dream in a difficult environment. His work continues to be popular because it highlights a vulnerable moment in American history and how the American spirit is made to overcome any challenge. John Steinbeck fits into the modernism and lost generation writers of the 1920s because he is aware of the American society and reflective in his writing.